And welcome back, guys, to an update video on the FIDE World Cup. As you can see, I'm home. I'm already wearing a jacket. It's not as pleasantly warm as it was in India, in Austria anymore. And in this video, I just wanted to give you a quick update on what happened for me personally in the last couple of days, and then also go into detail on how the World Cup is progressing, which players dropped out. There were many surprises and upsets in the previous round as well. And I wanted to talk about that. Let's start with how it went for me. I guess that most of you guys saw my recap. I did lose my match against Yu Yangi in round number 2. After a very long fight in the tiebreaks, I then lost 1.5 to 1/2 in the third tiebreak in the first blitz section. And overall, I'm actually quite happy with how it went. Of course, would have been nice to advance, and I certainly did have my chance against Yu Yangi. I won my first tiebreak game, and in the second one, where he needed to win to stay alive in the match, I did not need to lose that game. I had some chances where I could played a bit better, and after that it would have probably been quite difficult for him to stay alive in the match. But overall, I really cannot complain. I mean, I played against a super strong opponent who is an elite grandmaster for many years. And overall, I'm quite happy with the chess I was able to show, especially also in my first round. Like to beat Lupulescu was nothing I took for granted. I mean, he's a very strong grandmaster as well, and was quite lucky in the first black game of that match as well. So totally cannot complain about anything. Speaking about complaints, there was one other thing which I wanted to talk about, which was the fact that Nepo did this, made like a statement after he dropped out of the World Cup, after he got eliminated, that the conditions are so bad. At least that's kind of what I understood out of it. With the translation, he posted something on his Telegram channel, if I got that correctly, that FIDE again, he did not have big expectations, but FIDE did not manage to even get to those expectations. It was something like that, at least from what I could understand. That I just wanted to give you my opinion on that, which is that the conditions were really good in my opinion. Like, of course, you can get a better 5-star hotel than what it was, but it was really fully acceptable for myself, and also to most, or basically all of my friends who were there. No one was complaining about it, and and I don't think it also shines a great light onto Nepo that you say this immediately after you get eliminated. Like, if you have those complaints, then get them out immediately. But after losing the match, it does not make a great impression. That's all I can say. And just wanted to give you my opinion that I was quite happy with the playing conditions overall, as it usually is in India. There is so much force behind it and so much thought put into it. There's like a huge team of also volunteers, some people that do all of this just because they like chess and they want to support it. So this is nothing which is possible everywhere. So now I wanted to show you this table on how it is currently looking with the players. So as you can see, today was round number 4, the tie breaks, and the next round is round number 5, which is actually not tomorrow, because tomorrow is the first rest day of the event, but the day after tomorrow. And the first upset you can already see is at the top, which is that Gukesh lost against Swane Frederick from Germany, which was very surprising to everyone. Of course, Gukesh being the current world champion and also major rating favorite. It's not like Frederick is a weak opponent. He's extremely strong, but still, Gukesh is Gukesh. So everyone was obviously surprised. But again, you have to think about all of the pressure that is on the players. Like also on, for example, on Divya Deshmukh, I could also see that. Like, all of the eyes were on her, the only female in the tournament, and it must have been very difficult for her as well to cope with that pressure. And it's the same for all of the others, like Prague, because everyone is simply looking at them there. They want them to to win the thing, or at least to advance as far as possible. So there is this factor as well. And well, Frederic played a good game yesterday. He even beat Gukesh from the black side, which is not an easy thing to do. So I think it was quite deservedly so that he was able to advance. And in the next round, he's playing against Shan Sargsyan, which is probably less surprising that he was able to advance. I mean, still did he win in the? He did win in the classical portion already against Yilmaz, which is sort of a surprise because Yilmaz is extremely solid and very difficult to beat. I'm not sure in which game Sargsyan was able to win, but it looks like it was kind of a clean win from that regard, that he did not need to go into the tiebreaks. So this is going to be an interesting pairing. I wanted to do some predictions as well, but for this one it's going to be very difficult. If I have to pick someone, it's probably, well, let's stick with Frederic for now, since he might have this kind of momentum after beating the world champion. So I'm sticking with Frederic on this one. Then if we go to the next bracket, here you can see that Yu Yangi, who was my previous opponent, here you can see my name. He beat me 4.5, 3.5, so we had many games there. He was able to beat Narayanan in the first leg of the tiebreaks already, in the first rapid section. And now he's advancing to play against Sindarov, who won against Teodoro. I'm still going to stick with Yu Yangi, as Magnus said it on the stream while he was commenting on my game, that Yu Yangi is typically the type of player to advance very far in the World Cup because he's extremely solid. That's also something I noticed in my match. It was simply so incredibly hard to create any sort of chances against him. And the only game I was able to win against him in the Rapid, it was basically only because he pushed a little bit too hard, and then when I got my chances in the end game, I actually took them. But apart from that, it was so difficult, if not impossible, for me to create any chances. Obviously, Sindarov is a bit of a better player than myself, so he's going to have an easier time to create some chances, but still, like, Yu Yangi is incredibly strong from what I could tell over the board. So I'm going to stick with Yu Yangi there. Very interesting pairing, those two guys. Then we head on to the next one, which is Mamedyarov against Grandelius, with an absolutely crazy game, which my friend Niels was able to win in the end. In the classical portion already, Mamedyarov was completely winning for quite a couple of moves there, but then Niels was able to turn it around and won his match already in the classical portion. Same goes for Hare Krishna, who had a very clean match against Daniel Darda, winning his first game with white pieces and then drawing quite comfortably from the black side. The funny thing is that they are facing off in the next round, Hare Krishna against Grandelius. Probably most of you know that I did work as a second for Hare Krishna for quite some time. Also, Grandelius is a good friend of mine, and I'm going to give you a small secret here. We even had a training camp, the three of us. It was like 2 years ago, where we stayed at Hari's place for like a week, and the three of us were working together on openings and other things. So they are friends, and it's going to be, not the most pleasant situation for them to face off, but at the same time, very interesting for us to observe. If I have to go for someone here, it's probably going to be Hari. I'm sorry about that, Niels, but I was really impressed with how Hari has been playing in this World Cup so far. He won all of his matches in the classical portion already, which Niels did not. He had the tiebreak against Bacro. But Hari won against Najdorf, this absolutely brilliant game with the white pieces. And then against Darda also, it was simply a very, very clean match, even though both of his opponents are really strong. So sorry, Niels, but I'm going with Hari on that bracket. Now let's head on to the next one, which is very interesting. We see Sarana against Martinez. Martinez Alcantara already did quite the surprise for me, firstly, to beat Ivic, who is an extremely dangerous opponent in general, but especially in the World Cup format. He's typically doing extremely well there. He beat him in the tiebreaks, actually exactly the tiebreaks where I was also playing. So they played as many games as I did against Yu Yangi. I was always, when I did not play, we had some time and I was always watching their games as well. And of course, Martinez becomes especially dangerous in the faster time controls because he is kind of an expert there. But you see that even he was able to beat up to Zatorov in the classical portion 2-0, which also speaks volumes for his classical abilities as well. And he's facing off against Serrana. Serrana was able to win the tiebreak against Jordan van Foreest. Unfortunately for the Dutch fans, especially also that Geary dropped out, which we're going to see later as well. Interesting pairing. I'm going to go with Serrana, just because he's so solid and also difficult to beat. Van Foreest already surprised me that he was able to come back in his second game after losing the first game in the classical portion and leveling the match, only then to drop out in the tiebreaks. But I'm going to go with Serrana in that one. But I'm really cheering for Martinez, who played a really great tournament so far. And beating up to Zatorov 2-0 was, came as a huge surprise to, I would say, anyone. Yeah, in the next one, Stremavecius did lose after beating Wesley So in this famous encounter where Wesley resigned in actually a drawn position, which was very difficult to understand why it was a draw, but still, of course, must be incredibly painful for Wesley. And then Stremavecius did lose against Pranav already in the classical section, and now Pranav is now playing against Yakuboev, who beat my friend Nguyen Taiwan in the tiebreaks 3-1. I'm going to go with Yakuboev on that one. I don't know both of these players so well. I did play Yakuboev in 2 games, I think, in some youth tournaments because he's my age. I think I won one of those games, but that was still when we were like playing under 14, where he was already over 2400, and the other one I lost where he was already close to 2600 in the under 18 youth championship. That must have been like 2018 or 2019, I think. So I'm going to go with Yakuboev on that one. Then we have Liang Awander, who is playing against Gabriel Sargsyan. Sargsyan has such a low rating now, which is quite unjust. He's now sitting at 2615 or something like that, which is in my opinion way too low for him. He's a very strong player. Obviously, he's probably not in his best years anymore, but still he should be at least 2650, if not more than that. He just really doesn't have any weaknesses, in my opinion. He's a very classical, very positional player. Maybe if you go into some heavy dynamics, he can be a bit reluctant to go into that, but overall, even if it reaches there, he does have any of those abilities. So 26-15 for him is, in my opinion, a little bit too little, and he's also probably going to pick up some rating in this tournament as well. And he is facing off against Liang Awander next. And Liang, who did beat Varmadan before, already 2-0 in the classical portion, and now against Rasmus Svane, also in the classical with 1.5 to 0.5. I'm actually going to go with Sargsyan in that one. I really don't know much about Liang Awander. He was typically around 2600, a bit more than that, but recently he shot up to 2700. Obviously, he had many great results recently, but I'm going to stick to Sargsyan just because I know him and have been following him for many, many years. And I guess that this experience might be quite important in those matches. Next up, we have Le Kwang Liam against Kartik Venkataraman. Kartik is still one of those surprises in the event. Who did he beat earlier? He beat Deak now in the tiebreaks, and before he beat Suleimanli. And also Kartik, I think his rating, at least compared to his playing strength, is quite low. He's like 2560 or something. Maybe he was or even is 2600, but he definitely should be there. And now he's facing off against Le Kwang Liam. I'm going to go with Le Kwang on that one just because he's both in classical and rapid and blitz. He's very strong and extremely difficult to beat there. So this is my pick here. And next up, we have the German encounter Blühbaum against Donchenko. Blühbaum had quite the clean event so far, winning all of his matches in the classical so far. as did Donchenko, now that I see it. He also won his games in the Classical. Donchenko did have quite the big upset yesterday, beating Anish Giri in his second Classical game with the white pieces, which also looked to me like quite a clean game, honestly. Like, he put pressure on Anish from the start, and then in time trouble, Anish did let Donchenko increase his advantage to the maximum, and after that, Donchenko won without too many difficulties. On that one, I'm going to go with Buhmann, but it's going to be quite a close match, I think, because Donchenko also, I think his rating is like 2620 or so. I think he should be much more than that, at least 2650 or something like that. This is more like running into a this is more like getting to a rating guessing, not the predictions anymore, but still I wanted to give some comments on that. So I'm going with Buhmann on that match. Next is Prague against Dubov. Dubov had quite the interesting tournament. Like, from what I could see, he always went for the tiebreaks, had often even quite quick draws, and then almost always it got decided in the very fast time controls. It was also against Georg Meyer today. But then once it comes to those tiebreaks, he's typically quite happy there. And I'm not sure if he even lost any games in the tiebreak either. Also against Jin Shibai, they had quite the long match. I was also there still while they were playing. That's going to be very interesting. I'm going to go with Prague, but it's also going to be quite a close match. I think that they will head to the tiebreaks. That would be my best guess. Then Vidit Gujrati got knocked out by Sam Shankland, who is now facing off against Richard Rapport. Rapport won in the tiebreaks against Erdogmus from Turkey, the 14-year-old prodigy. I'm going to go with Rapport there. Shankland did have a pretty good event so far. He beat Vasily Ivanchuk 2-0. But so did Rapport. He beat Supi Luis Paulo 2-0. And against Erdogmus, the match seemed also like he was simply the better player, even though he did need to go into tiebreaks. And the second game, which was decided, he was actually dead lost, but then in the end saved the draw, and therefore he was able to win the match. But still, I'm going to go with Rapport on that one. After that, we have Vachier against Grebnev. Grebnev is certainly a surprise in that bracket, because both Kurkulus and Grebnev managed to advance in this bracket against both high-rated opponents. And then they faced off against each other when Grebnev finally prevailed. Grebnev, though, is a strong player. He's 26-15, 26-20, and he's also quite young at the same time. So it's going to be quite a difficult match for Maxime, who also today, just on a quick side note, did have a very long and tough match against Artemiev. They did head to the Armageddon, in which Vachier was then able to prevail, but it was a very close match for Vachier, who was on some occasions extremely close to getting knocked out. Still, I'm going to go with Vachier here. He's an incredibly strong match player overall in this World Cup format. He's always going very far in this tournament, and he's just this type of player who can put a lot of pressure from the white side. Even in must-win situations, he can put pressure from the black side, at least in the sense to play for a win. So it's very, very difficult against Vachier. Then we have Esipenko against Keimer, which is another super interesting encounter. Both of them still pretty young. Vincent must be like 20 now, 21. And Esipenko is my age, should be like 23. I'm going to go with Vincent on that one. Esipenko did have quite an exciting match against Idani as well. Idani winning the first classical game and then Esipenko coming back later. Vincent, on the other hand, had a pretty clean event so far, winning all of his encounters in the classical portion already. I'm going to go with Vincent on that one, but of course it's going to be quite difficult as well. I think also both of them do have quite a similar style. They are both more positional, strategical, with Vincent, on the other hand, being just a little bit better in all of these areas. So therefore, I'm picking him there. Yeah, we are approaching the end of the table. Just a couple more pairings. First one is Vailly against Maksudlu. That's another exciting pairing, especially considering that both players do have a very interesting and attacking style, so we're going to see some fireworks in that one for sure. I'm going to go with a higher rated player here as well with YE, but this is certainly a match to watch out for. I'm sure there are going to be some interesting games to follow there. Then we have Sam Sevian against probably the biggest surprise of the tournament, Lorenzo Lodici, who is from Italy and has a very low rating, at least compared to his playing strength. I think he's 2,560 or something like that. But I mean, especially in this tournament, if you could see his games, it's obvious that he's a much stronger player than that. He beat firstly Samadov, who is quite a good player, convincingly. Then he beat Hans Niemann in the tiebreak. And then he beat Mickey Adams, which I don't know if the live transmission was wrong there, but the final game which they played did seem like Mickey was winning on numerous occasions there. I only went through the game like quickly and also with an engine, so probably all of that was way more difficult than it seemed as an outstander. That was a peculiar encounter. Still, obviously, for Lodici to come so far was not expected for most players, but on the other hand, also deserve it if you did look at his games. But I have to say that now I do think that it's going to be the end for him, as I'm going with Samuel Sevian, who I think is going to be quite a difficult opponent for Lodici, especially because Lodici has quite the attacking style and likes to go for some crazier positions, and Sevian is quite good against that. He's a very solid player and typically punishes his opponent for kind of overstepping the line. So I'm going with Sevian on that one. Then we have a matchup between two pretty experienced players, Levon Aronian and Radoslav Wojtaszek. Wojtaszek already beating Fedoseev 2-0 in a very convincing style, winning his first black game. And then Fedoseev from the black side, he chose what I think is kind of like a losing line from the black side, trying to create some winning chances, but Wojtaszek did not give him any chance there and convincingly won the match. Also, Aronian did have a very beautiful game against Salem in their classical portion. I am going with Levon in that one, still with a rating favorite, but I do also think that it can be quite a close matchup, quite likely to go into the tiebreaks as well. And finally, we have Peter Leko against Arjun Erigaisi. And I have to give a huge shout out to Leko here, who won really a fantastic game against Kirill Alexienko in their classical encounter in the first game, where Leko had the white pieces. He played a super nice positional game and beat Alexienko, who's representing my country, Austria, in a very nice style. Obviously, it's not easy for me to say that since Alexienko is playing for my national team as well. But I have to give him credit for that, and also for the fact that he's simply an amazing commentator and also a very, very pleasant person to be around. But now it's going to be very difficult for him playing against the number 2 seed of the tournament, Arjun Erigaisi. I am going with Arjun in that round, but I really would like to see Leko to advance here, because I've always loved to watch his games. As I said, I really like his general personality and attitude. Always like to watch his broadcasts and commentaries. So I would love to see a matchup between Leko and Aronian, but I still have the feeling that Erigaisi is going to prevail in that one. Yeah, that was it. I think that the video is already quite long at this point, but I wanted to give you kind of a small overview on what is my opinion on the matchups, and give you also a small update in case you haven't seen all of the games, and now you know which pairings are in front of us. Again, tomorrow there are no games, unfortunately, for us to enjoy, but the day after that, the next round is going to start. That was it for me now. Let me know in the comment section down below what you would like to see in the next few days. I am going to Croatia on Friday, but I might drop another video in the next few days, maybe about the World Cup or maybe about something else. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and see you soon.